welcome to SVG-TV News for Tuesday, November 10th, 2020. I am Rochelle Batiste with the details. Prime Minister Dr. Ralph Gonsalves today named his new cabinet of ministers following the success of his Unity Labour Party, the ULP, at the polls last Thursday. The 10 ministers, 9 of whom were successful in last Thursday's general elections, took their oath of allegiance, oath of office, and oath of secrecy, presided over by Governor General Dame Susan Duggan at a public ceremony at Heritage Square. Prime Minister Dr. Ralph Gonsalves, who was sworn in last Saturday as Prime Minister, holds the portfolios of National Security, Foreign Affairs, Legal Affairs, and Information. The Deputy Prime Minister, Montgomery Daniel, who was also sworn in last Saturday, holds the portfolios of Transport and Works, Lands, and Physical Planning. Sobota Caesar has been given the portfolios of Agriculture, Forestry, Fisheries, Rural Transformation, Industry, and Labor. The portfolios of the Public Service, Consumer Affairs, and Sports were assigned to Frederick Stevenson. Camelo Gonsalves again has been assigned responsibility for finance, economic planning, and information technology. Sinclair Jimmy Prince has been assigned the new portfolios of Health, Wellness, and the Environment. Carlos James, who is taking on ministerial responsibility for the first time, has been assigned the portfolios of Tourism, Civil Aviation, Sustainable Development, and Culture. First-time MP Curtis King has been assigned responsibility for education and national reconciliation. The portfolios of national mobilization, youth, social development, the family, gender affairs, housing, and informal human settlement were assigned to another MP, Orlando Brewster. Julian Francis was named Minister with responsibility for urban development, energy, airports and seaports, Grenadines affairs and local government. Rashad Bala was named Parliamentary Secretary in the office of the Prime Minister. And leader of the New Democratic Party, Dr. Godwin Friday, said his party supporters are disappointed by the loss in last week's general elections, but they are encouraged that the party received the majority of votes. The NDP won 6 seats to the ULP's 9, but came away with the popular vote, a total of 32,804 votes, 494 more than the ULP. Dr. Friday told SVG-TV News that the people spoke with their votes, and that is what is important, and they are grateful for the support they receive from the majority of the electorate.
While the results of the election were the results were disappointing, of course, for the Democratic Party supporters, we were very encouraged by the fact that we are now the majority party in the country because most of the people voted for us and for the vision that we present, and we'll conduct ourselves in accordance with that. I'm thankful to the people for the support and the confidence that they placed in us to take the country in a direction that they prefer in accordance with the vision that we articulated in the election campaign in the manifesto, and we will continue to push to get that vision into reality.
Dr. Friday said that they will analyze the outcome of the elections, press ahead, and he will continue to work with his team since they remain committed to serving the people for a better future.
But to let them know, so my feelings are entirely consistent with that. That's the mood of the people in the country. That's what we found when we've gone around and thanked people, which I did on Sunday here in Beckway, and my colleagues on the mainland. They are, disappointed, but in no way despondent, because they know that the vision that we articulated is the one that the majority of the people in the country now support, and that is extremely encouraging for us, and we will proceed on that basis.
The NDP leader said he will be making a statement tomorrow on all platforms, and on Saturday his party has planned a thank you rally to take place at Heritage Square. Concerns have been expressed about campaign financing and the advantage of the incumbent to use the state machinery to help secure a victory at the polls. These issues were highlighted by the panelists on SVG-TV's Viewpoint program last Sunday, which centered on the just concluded general elections that the Unity Labour Party won by a 9-6 majority over the New Democratic Party, thus securing a 5th consecutive term in office. Lawyer and social commentator Jomo Thomas said it is sad that over the years the elections here in SVG and around the world are not being decided based on policies and programs.
I think the world of politics is now broken down into tribes, and it is my tribe right or wrong. So it matters not what your tribe do. I am going to vote for my tribe because I don't like that tribe. But here what happens? The country suffers because nobody thinks, and the politicians have been great at this. They get us now not to remember the country, but to remember the tribe. And my tribe is going up against your tribe. So I am not going to take a position as a matter of principle and say, watch, you know this? I can't vote for them men there now because of X, Y, Z. Poor representation, all kind of salacious allegations, all of that. You're not making a choice. You're saying, I may have a grouse, but at the end of the day, because my tribe is going up against that other tribe, I am not in that.
Thomas said the influence of what he referred to as dark money is also a cause for concern, noting that a tremendous amount of money, which is not raised locally, is being spent on campaigns. Thomas said another issue of concern is the way in which the power of the incumbency is used to gain support.
I think it was actually repulsive in many respects, repugnant in many respects, vulgar in other respects, the ways in which the power of incumbency was used. I saw a situation, for example, where in North Leeward, a candidate for the party is giving out the, what is the thing called? The electronic device that they were giving out. The tablets. Giving it out on the eve of an election to students. It's not his party's, but he's giving it out. That can't be right.
Minister of Education's role.
That can't be right. Let the Minister of Education do it. Let the Permanent Secretary. So then you have a day or two before the elections, police officers are promoted. That can't be right. How do you do that? And for me, as somebody who spent my whole life in Vincentian politics, in progressive politics, there's nothing about that that compares with progressive politics. That's vulgar. That's bourgeois politics at its worst.
Another social activist, Idisha Jackson, supporting Thomas, said she too was not pleased with the way in which the government's machinery was used to fuel the campaign in last Thursday's general elections.
In all of the things we do, we hand out the tablets at this time. We have the $1,000 houses for one bedroom, the $2,000 houses. And yes, I do agree that it's part of their policy, and they have been doing it. But at this point in time, the critical juncture of a campaign, it's tantamount to bribery. You understand? It's tantamount to using something like a cheese to get the carrot to get the rabbit. And I didn't particularly like it. But it's been the style of our politics for many, many years. It's worsening now, but it's been the style of our politics. You'll see hard courts being repaired, groundbreaking and so on just before, and then you'd hear on the other side the promises to do the same. You understand? So I am very wary of that type of politics. I am as well not too happy with the style of the campaign where it's more a dance and party than an edifying process. I think that the incumbent government had the opportunity to use all the state's machinery to help them in the process of campaigning, and it was easier for them to seize victory.
Lawyer Roderick Jones, expressing similar sentiments, said it is time that legislation is put in place to control campaign spending, noting that in its absence, the incumbent will always have the advantage going into an election.
I was amazed that on the eve of election, tablets would be passed out to students. A few days before, they were passed out to students, potential voters at the community college.
After waiting for 6 months, eh?
Yeah, after waiting for 6 months. It is not by coincidence that there was a surge in the amount of government spending around that period. There were roads that were not touched for centuries, all of a sudden were repaired. Goodie tracks are built here, there, and everywhere. And it's an unfair advantage, which the incumbent gets to enjoy.
The Electoral Office has commended the 1,200 plus persons who worked to help to make the just concluded general elections process a success. Speaking on NBC Radio's face-to-face program this morning, Supervisor of Elections Dora James said all of their hard work paid off. She said they worked long and hard so that the process can be conducted with little hiccups.
And we know that everybody looks for perfection, and we strive for perfection too. We understand that in some cases, we would have had to review our operations, but that is how things would go. You plan down to the T, you cross your T's, you dot your I's, but Murphy will come in. And these are the incidences we would use to better inform our practice as we go forward. And I must say, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, you are a wonderful people as always. I see long lines, and I know in many cases you are frustrated. But I think from our analysis that many persons came out very early. But the fact that they were there shows that they wanted to be part of the process. And they stood there patiently, and I want to thank them. Patiently and peacefully as they go through the day's work. I want to thank you so much, St. Vincent and the Grenadines. We welcome your feedback. We continue to work together for the development of our nation.
Noting the concern of many persons that the results on the night of the elections were known by other entities before they were officially announced, Deputy Supervisor of Elections Sylvester King said this is usually the case and explained why.
With the agents at the polling stations had access to the result. And this particular year, we came to a consensus when we met with the political parties that we would allow the agents to take a photo of the statement of the polls. So in principle, they could have relayed that information to their political their respective political parties. So one, they would have had that information. Two, there were radio stations who were not necessarily at the command center link there. They may have received a link, but they would have also received those results via those other means, and therefore they were able to announce them. What we wanted to be certain about is that those results that were announced from the command center were the official verified results. And because of the arrangement this year where we wanted you to have a graphical representation of what things were happening, there were maybe a few delays here and there, but not intentional. So just to make that clear, and in going forward, we will see how we could really bring these things in a better marriage.
As to the way forward and what needs to be worked on, Supervisor of Elections Dora James said the voters list needs to be reviewed so that it can mirror more precisely the number of persons who should vote.
Of persons who are abroad, their names are still on the list, and there is that opportunity to remove them when we have enumeration, when we have the special period that would pass by law, and the law allows us to remove names when persons are away 5 consecutive years, and we need to see how we can mesh that effectively to get those names removed. We also need to look at reform. There are some areas of reform we can speak to. Those we can't raise on radio, but we need to look at the laws and to get it better, us able to help in terms of how we do things, especially on ED, and I refer to the cell phones. Before you know it, ballots were on social media. Persons mark the ballot and they just post them out there. And we need to look at that. The secrecy of the ballot must be maintained. And there are some little things we would do in training. Continue to train and train and train to have that perfection level.
And President of the SVG Christian Council, Reverend Adolph Davis, has commended the work of the Electoral Office for embracing their role as representative of the Christian Council and as monitors in the just concluded general elections. Reverend Davis, who as head of the Christian Council also chairs the National Monitoring and Consultative Mechanism, which was involved in the monitoring of the just concluded general elections, made a comments on NBC's face-to-face program. Reverend Davis said he was happy to have been given a front seat to observe the process within and outside of the Electoral Office.
These elections, the office and showed us how things are done, how the lists are compiled, what happens at which station. So we had a tour of the office, and then when they were putting the boxes together to give to the different political parties, which were their different lists, again, I had the opportunity to see them compiling the list and packing the list. Again, part of it to ensure that the process is transparent as well. And then on E-Day, of course, I would have been to several polling stations. I think I would have covered about 8 or 9 of the constituencies. I would have been in a polling station or 2 in at least 8 or 9 of the constituencies. And of course, the monitors were in all constituencies. I was just speaking about my own rounds. Right. And then I was also there for some of the final counts.
Reverend Davis is of the view that there needs to be a greater level of maturity by the people whom he said are the custodians of a democracy.
Concern about that is that I think the more we shy away from that, what you have is that people are cocooned into their own parties and spaces. They are unwilling to share their views because if you vote for ULP, the next person is going to rubbish you and accuse you of being, so irresponsible. And especially if you're Christian, you're unchristian. And if you vote for NDP, the other person is going to rubbish you and accuse you of being unchristian or, rubbish. And I think there has to be that embrace of the fact that we will all make different choices for different good reasons. And out of that, if we respect that, then we will better be able to engage each other and have conversations, knowing that it's not going to descend into personal, attacks and opinions about each other. And the more we can conversate is the more I think it helps us to be able to make better decisions, as well as challenge our politicians to represent us better.
With respect to steps to heal the divide within the church over party politics, Reverend Davis said it requires immediate personal intervention.
That George and Mary are not speaking because of politics. The pastor of that congregation, I think, needs to personally touch base with those persons and facilitate the reconciliation. And people who are aware of those things could say, Pastor, these two persons not, so that the pastor could try and intervene. So I think there's that first level. I think, as church, pulpits have always been a very powerful place of enabling transformation. And I suspect many of the pastors and preachers, ministers coming out of the elections will be reflecting on that kind of a scenario from their pulpit. In other words, challenging people to let's move on and really let's work together. And I think so that is also part of the immediate. But I also think there's a medium to longer term intervention, which is what I was speaking of earlier, where I think as churches, and as I said, I plan to have a conversation with brethren, we need to begin to be more deliberate in preparing our people for the next election, to begin shaping a narrative that really empowers people to choose, to be able to have their party choice, and that be celebrated. And it's not beyond us. There was a time when, as a young man, maybe I was looking at elections from rose-colored lens.
The president of the SVG Teachers Union, Oswald Robinson, said that the decision of the Prime Minister to have a conversation with the Public Service Commission on the possible reinstatement of teachers who resigned to contest general elections, it is already part of the collective bargaining agreement, which was never upheld by the government. Robinson referred to former teachers and the most recent candidate, Chevron John, who were not granted leave to contest but had to resign from the teaching profession.
Worst case, we have had Mrs. Rootwoods, right? She was reinstated, but at a lower status. She was supposed to be reinstated as a principal, but she was reinstated as I think is a qualified assistant teacher, right? Then we had Nicola Days, which was not reinstated. And then we have the three teachers, Elvis Daniel, Kenroy Johnson, and Bash Thomas. And then now we have Chevron John is yet to decide whether she wants to get back into teaching or not. And Mr. Daniel and Thomas, they are due for retirement very soon, very, very soon. So I am not sure if you're going to ask those two other brothers to be reinstated. Are they going to start all over again, or is just a continuation? Those are things you have to look at very closely.
Robinson said that the teachers who reapplied were told that there was no vacant position, and in one case the position was changed.
Well, they had reapplied, and it was said to them that whenever there is a vacancy. So up to now, I want to know if there's still no vacancy after so many years. Those teachers would have reapplied. And after so many years, it's kind of surprising to hear now you're asking people to reapply. If you just have a couple more months to go before you reach the age of retirement, in the case of Mr. Daniel and Mr. Thomas, what sense does it make go back into the classroom when you're close to get all your benefits?
The Teachers Union president said that Chevron John now has two options under the collective bargaining agreement, which must be followed through if she has to reapply.
Collective agreement, once you resign and you're unsuccessful, then that article protects your pension and gratuity, because the collective agreement was signed by the government. So whenever Mrs. John reapplied, the Service Commission ought to honor the collective agreement by reinstating her. She resigned. She was forced to resign because the Service Commission did not give her leave. She got a response from the Service Commission the day before nomination. So that is like a constructive dismissal. She took 6 months leave. So what she has to do, she has to reapply and probably ask to cancel some of the months. Yeah, but there's a process, there's a procedure. She has to first indicate to the Service Commission her interest in being reinstated.
Robinson congratulated Curtis King, a member of the SVG-TU, on being elected to Parliament. He also congratulated the New Democratic Party's candidate for North Windward, Chevron John, who, though unsuccessful at the polls, did a good job at campaigning and securing a large number of votes. And members of the Teachers profession across the state are observing Teacher Solidarity Week under the theme Teachers Leading in Crisis, Reimagining the Future. The activities began on Sunday with a church service at the Harvest Bible Chapel at Addersvale and continued yesterday with the annual C.W. Prescott Memorial Lecture at French's House. Principal of the Kittels Government School, Donette Abbott Ferdinand, delivered a lecture on the theme Teachers Leading in Crisis, Reimagining the Future. In her presentation, Ferdinand commended teachers for continuing to enhance student learning during the challenges faced in the COVID-19 pandemic.
Faced immense challenges. They successfully managed to shift to remote learning platforms by improving their ability to deal with technology, something some of them or many of them were not equipped to do prior to the pandemic. While I do not have the data regarding what occurred locally, and I did try to get it, I am confident of this one fact. Teaching and learning practices dramatically altered, and school leaders and teachers were pushed to the limit.
Ferdinand also highlighted ways in which teachers were able to manage during the pandemic.
Although most of us who are practitioners within the system were not aware of what responses were necessary at the time, we sprang into action and did what we felt we had to do. We were forced to reassess everything we knew and had grown accustomed to. We had to figure out in rapid time how to reconnect with our students. And that happened after school closed on March 20th. For many of us. Decisions had to be made quickly, but not rashly. The well-being of our students was of critical importance, and while we were cognizant that the closure of school was necessary, we had to figure out how best to serve our clients. In short, we were dragged out of our comfort zones.
Ferdinand also spoke about how the COVID-19 pandemic affected some of the students' ability to learn.
The crisis did not affect all of the children in the same way. Despite our best efforts, some children were denied the opportunity to learn by virtue of their parents' economic status. The lack of digital devices, no internet access, no electricity, and issues relating to nutrition created discrepancies in the delivery of online learning. In households where there are multiple children, sharing a single device created many problems, many issues, while children were left unsupervised by working parents. In the case of many teachers, they had to facilitate online learning while supervising their own young children.
Activities for Teacher Solidarity Week continue today with a workshop at the Teachers Cooperative Credit Union's conference room. The annual general meeting will be held tomorrow at the Thomas Saunders Secondary School from 4 p.m. and the Teachers March and Rally on Friday. The activities will conclude on Saturday with the President's Appreciation Cocktail and Award Ceremony. In other news, Couriers Distribution Limited last week broke ground to signal the start of a $27.7 million EC state-of-the-art warehouse and administrative center. Diamond Chief Executive Officer of Couriers Distribution Limited, Jimmy Ford, describing the project, said it will take 10 months to complete and provide employment for about 120 people in the construction phase.
Our cold storage capacity will move from 3,000 square feet to 9,450 square feet, an increase of about 215%. This new warehouse will also include 4,600 square feet of air-conditioned storage for things like pastas and biscuits and wine and so on, an accommodation that we don't currently have now. The building, our cold rooms currently can stock at best almost 2 pallet height of storage. This new cold room facility will take you up to 4 pallet. So you have forklift driving into the warehouse we start without any intervention from anybody else. 1, 2, 3, 4 stacks of pallet in the air. That's how we're moving. This project will cost about $27.7 million and will employ about 120 persons during full construction.
Representative of the South Windward constituency, Frederick Stevenson, commended the project and said that he is happy that more jobs will be created for the people of that constituency.
For coming to South Windward and to Diamond. This facility would create, as Mr. Ford quite rightly said in his presentation, would create employment opportunities for a number of persons in the area. Employment opportunities during the construction period, and I'm sure employment opportunities when the facility is completed. The persons who are into the trucking, into other forms of employment areas in terms of their training and the likes. Diamond Woods, one of the earlier companies to come to Diamond, have been providing an excellent service.
The project field officer for the Teens Mothers Program, Hazelyn Lewis, is encouraging young mothers between 12 to 19 years of age to grasp the second chance with the program offers to complete their secondary or tertiary education. The Back to School Teen Mothers Program was introduced in June 2003 to facilitate the re-entry of teen mothers into schools. It forms part of the inclusive education policy of the government through the collaboration of the Ministries of Education and National Mobilization and facilitated through the Gender Affairs Division.
If you know of any teen mother out there who is not attending school and you're concerned about them going back to school, and at the age, as I said, 12 to 18, you can visit the office at Gender Affairs. We are located in the Old Gecko building. You come and you just make a report and we'll see what we can do to assist the teen mother. Once that person is interested in going back to school, we will work with them. Outside of them going back to school, we have what we call empowerment sessions or workshops. And we have 3 sessions within the year, the month of April, August, and December. At those sessions, we usually try to teach them, different aspects of life, parenthood, sex health. We teach them how to handle crisis within school and outside of school. We also work along with the family. If there's any family issue, we would refer them, to social protection or even child protection, where they will be receiving counseling or family intervention. So those are what also we do apart from, schoolwork.
Lewis highlighted some of the other areas of assistance offered to the students.
To school, we assist them with, meals and transportation. For the academic year, we assist them with uniforms. As for the children, we have a program where we assist about 15, teen mothers with daycare. So if they can't afford to send the children to daycare, we would send them and we will pay the daycare fee. That's some of the assistance that you get when you're on the program.